Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Finn React. Michael here. Today we're doing a tier list again. Now this tier list for me, this is a personal favorite of mine. Now growing up on Spike TV and also growing on the Fox Sport, there was one show in particular in the world of MMA that I always had interest in, and that was The Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter is the concept of two coaches that are usually UFC fighters coaching a team to have eventually one person be the Ultimate Fighter. It was an early show that became a success, which we will talk about later on. Now, currently there are at least 30 plus seasons of the Ultimate Fighter. Now, this list won't have every season, but that's okay, because you know what? Not every season is going to be great. So, the concept of this that we're going to go through is the S and D. S being the greatest Ultimate Fighter that was out there, between D being I can't believe I had to watch this season. So, without further ado, let's begin the list. Now, I know you guys, I'm above here. As to be fair, because we're covering the entire list, we have to be fair about this list. Starting off with one of the most interesting seasons, the Ultimate Fighter Heavyweight. Rampage versus Rashad. Now, what I didn't like the show was the fact that it reflected too much between the rival between Rashad and Rampage. Basically, the season was about those two bickering back and forth. But the greatest concept about the show is that now we had Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice, the street fighter that we all love to watch, and rest his soul, every day we pray that we had inspiration by him to fight and keep going. And you also had the winner of Roy Country Nelson go further in his career. I wouldn't say he never won a champion, but if I had to put a ranking on the show, I'm going to give it a fair B. I think it could have been better if they did less of the bickering, but I didn't like the fact that Rampage's team, well, not really many fighters on that season you guys think of today. I mean, you think of Kimbo Slice, Roy Nelson, Brandon Schaub. That's the only three people I could think of. I mean, Wesley Sims, I mean, he was in the UFC early and then he left. Anyway, now we're going to go into another season that, for me, was very interesting. Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz. Season 11. Now, this is what I call getting two rivals to go against each other with their own team. Now, let's say Court McGee, being the Ultimate Fighter, is not a well-named fighter that people still talk about today. He won the show, but it also reflected around Chuck and Tito's rival, which did result into Tito leaving because of surgery, replacing him with Rich Franklin. Now, I'm actually going to say something at the end of this video because I'm actually going to see if she's actually going to do this on her podcast or she's going to do this for something. But I will have to say, in my opinion, I like the season. I mean, it did have its little spark of rivals between one another, but to me, it was a great season. I can't complain about the Ultimate Fighter Season 11. The Ultimate Fighter Season 12, Team GSP versus Koscheck. Once again, we're getting to two people that don't like each other. GSP's calm, cool, collective technique against Koscheck, antics, be a dick kind of personality. Now, the ultimate winner, Jonathan Brookins, I mean, it's not, well, he got released after a couple of fights. But coming off that season, you had Michael Johnson, who is still around in UFC. And that's pretty much it. The only one I actually really know is Jeffrey Lentz, because he is from New Jersey. NJ. And I actually did train in the boxing place, the same place he did. So it's actually kind of cool. But I did like the season. I'll give it an A. The Ultimate Fighter Season 13, Team Lesnar versus Team Dos Santos. Now, I can admit, this season brought a fighter who won it, who is still around, and people are kind of mixed feel at the moment, which is Tony Ferguson. Now, he's on a bad streak right now. Hopefully, after his fight against Mike Chiesa, we'll see where he goes from here. I mean, it wasn't really a terrible season, but it wasn't a great season. I think to me it kind of fits well that you had to put it as a C, because as much as we know the winner from today, nothing really excited me in that show, you know. I mean, Tony did say something inappropriate during the season, but, you know, if you don't know about it, I recommend watching it. Now we're going to Season 14, Team Mayhem versus Team Bisping. One of my favorites personally, because I love Jason Mayhem Miller. Now this season brought two winners, Diego Brandao and John Dodson. Both were actually pretty decent in UFC. Both are not in the UFC anymore. But it did bring one person who was in the final, didn't win it, but eventually became a champion, which was T-Day Dillashaw. To me, the fighters that were on the show, I liked. The conflict and drama, loved it. I mean, as much as Mayhem got his ass kicked, I mean, I hate to say it, I would have to put it probably because it made people want to watch it between seeing Bisping and Mayhem going at each other. Pranks, antics, conflict. One of my favorites. Alright, Season 15, Uriah Faber versus Dominic Cruz. Now, this is when they started to bring the UFC Ultimate Fighter to Fox Sport, or Fox, in the same kind of region, you know, tomato. Now, this was live, so there was no, like, pre-taped and all that stuff. This was actually going down. Ultimate winner was Mike Chiesa, who is still with the UFC, and he's still in the same boat as Tony Ferguson, you know, trying to still get the same run before their retirement. And to me, one of my favorite seasons. I mean, eventually it never happened between the two because Dominic Cruz got hurt and it resulted in Jose Aldo coming in and covering. No, not Jose Aldo. Henderson Barral. Sorry, guys, got my people confused. Henderson Barral, I was going to say, God, we haven't heard that name in a long time. I know retired, but I would have to say one of my favorite seasons, definitely an A-worthy. Oh God, The Ultimate Fighter 16, I would have to say was the downfall of the Ultimate Fighters. Team Nelson versus Team Carwin. Now, the Ultimate winner was Colton Smith, who won it and then just disappeared from the UFC. And to me, you know, it wasn't my favorite season. This season was disappointing with the fights, but we did get the little antics of Let Me Bang Bro from Julian Lane. But ultimately, the season can go to a D because not a lot of people liked this season. People thought it was lame. And we bounced back later on. I remember started watching this because this was actually coming on during my time in college, community college. Ultimate Fighter 17, Team Jones versus Team Sonnen. Now, the ultimate winner ended up being Kelvin Gastelum, who is still around the UFC. I don't know where he's at right now. I know he had been having some highs and lows. Right now, he's in the middle. He's supposed to be fighting real soon, but we'll see where. But ultimately, one of my favorite fighters who didn't win it was very big in the UFC, and that was Uriah Hall. And trust me, Adam Sella knows what it feels like going against Uriah Hall. Didn't feel in the jaw after, but I would have to say it's an S tier because I did like the coaching concept. Team John Jones, Chael Sonnen, the bad boy who talks versus the undefeated champion at the time. Finally, after UFC 151, which no one talks about, they eventually did fight at UFC 159, and we all know what happened. The Ultimate Fighter 18, Team Tate versus Team Rousey. Now, this is the part of the UFC where I would have to say that it was kind of a mixed feel. And same thing for me, I have a mixed feel about it. The Ultimate Fighter winner was Juliana Pena, who went out to win the UFC champion. So she actually made it big after her UFC Ultimate Fighter run. Overall, they did also reflect too much on the rival between Team Tate, Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. The problem was, it was coming at the end of it, the weight cutting. And I have to admit, 2 fighters failed to make weight and got eliminated. That's just disappointing. After the tryout, and they know about the concept of being in-house, you have to lose weight, but also keep a decent weight without over and under eating. To me, I think it kind of fits along, you know? It's a C because people loved it, people hated it. For me, it's average. It's not like one of my favorite ones. And then we go to the Ultimate Fighter 19. New Jersey's own Frankie Edgar versus Team BJ Penn. Now this is BJ's coming back into the UFC, trying to get his last bit of run before he retires. I don't know where BJ Penn is now, but hopefully BJ Penn is doing well. Now, I did like a little bit of the season. It wasn't my favorite. It kind of, once again, fits in the C. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just there. My buddy was on the show, Hector Urbina, my boy. I mean, he didn't get far, but you know what? It's a C. The Ultimate Fighter winners were Eddie Gordon and Diego Lima. After all, they didn't even make it far, and you'll see why. But we're going back to probably one of the greatest seasons, and I'm not going to, waste any time. The Ultimate Fighter, the first season, Team Liddell versus Team Couture. Now, this was the base that became the success. And anyone that believes that it should be lower, please let me know in the comments below. Why do you believe that? Because we had Diego Sanchez and Forrest Griffin, and honestly, their round of becoming the UFC, very much of a success. Well, Forrest, definitely. Diego didn't win a champion, but he had a lot of 5-star matches. Now, this had a lot of drama, but a lot of fighters that people still talk about from the Ultimate Fighter. Josh Koscheck, Chris Lieben, Stephan Bonnar, rest in peace. A lot of these fighters that were on the Ultimate Fighter Season 1 made the season entertaining, from the drama, from the fights, to the competition. Even Dana White was a big forefront of the season. And if you guys don't know of Do You Want to Be a Fucking Fighter, I recommend looking that up on YouTube. But overall, one of the best seasons, one of the most top-ranked seasons, and to me, I can't say anything different about this. Now, we're going to go back to the current. So this is season 20. Now, this is when Fox Sport 1 was still continuing on with the UFC Ultimate Fighter. And this is when they started to bring in the new season. I forget. It was Team Pettit versus Team Melendez. Now, once again, 2 good rivals going at each other. But this was the introduction of a new champion being crowned. Now, this show had a lot of good fighters. Carla Esparza, Rose, one of my favorites. Felicia Herring, God, she was so hot in that show. Oh man, there were so many, and I was going to say, I'm not wasting any time. Now, I do like the concept, and everything about it was so good. Eventually, Carla did win the championship, but eventually she did lose it. But overall, I'd say it's a B. I wouldn't say it was like a lot of guys watch it because of the women, but, it wasn't like a top tier show. Now, the Ultimate Fighter Season 21. Now, this is where they changed the concept up. This wasn't about coaches that were UFC fighters. This was team versus team. Blackzilians versus American Top 10 team. And I must say, it wasn't the best of season, but it brought a lot of drama. An ultimate winner was former welterweight championship Usman, who has a great run UFC. Hopefully we see more of him soon. But it wasn't, to me, a season that people are going to say, I remembered. Overall, I will put it as a C. It could have been different. I think if they made it longer and different, I would have said it would have gone up to a B at least. Now, this, to me, was a mixed feel of a season. The Ultimate Fighter 22, I believe we're on. I lost count. Team Uriah versus Team McGregor. Now, people were boasting about Conor McGregor being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter. And to me, it was interesting. Did Conor end up being a great coach? I would say his last season that he was on against Team Chandler was his better coaching career. But this was when Conor McGregor was also kind of being the gloating vibe, where he was all about him, not his team. I don't know who won this season. I think it was someone on Team Faber, but overall, I didn't like the season. It just was all about Conor McGregor, and you can't make a season just about because of one coach. It's kind of like the whole thing. I would have to put it as a C. People will disagree with me, but that's okay. Now we're going on to season 23. Team Joanna versus Team Claudia. Now, I must say, the rival between these two was like Tito and Chuck. They hated each other. After their first bout and how much conflict they had, everyone knew there was going to be some sparks and fire between these guys. Girls, correction, sorry. But overall, the overall winners, are they big? Kind of. Are there fighters still that people talk about? There are some. Is my boy not on this UFC roster right now? Absolutely not. The other Urbina brother is not on there. Elias, Dana White, what are you doing? Get him back in the UFC. But overall, it brought a rival that was it was more interesting to watch. I would put it as an A. Now, you know what? B. I'm going to go safe. Now, Ultimate Fighter Season 24 was a little bit different. They decided to, switch a lot of things up. Now, in Season 20, they did the top girl versus the bottom girl, and then 2-15, and so on and so on. Now, these were randomly picked and the same thing they did with the UFC Ultimate Fighter 24. Now, these are champions from the flyweight from different companies coming together and getting a shot against Demetrius Johnson, who is a great UFC fighter and also good YouTuber. Love you, Demetrius Johnson. Anyway, I would have to put the season probably as a C. Overall, Tim Elliott, still with the UFC. But it did bring a champion who was way ranked lower than what he should be today. Brandon Moreno. Probably the most underrated GOAT in the same season as Kelvin Gastelum. The dark horse who eventually became a champion. So, overall, I think there's a lot of concepts of bringing fighters that were not winners, and this is where the UFC Ultimate Fighter kind of started getting a little bad. Team Gabber versus Team Dillashaw. Now, I hate to say it, I'm going to put this as a C. And here's my preference. Now, I like the concept, bringing back former UFC Ultimate Fighter competitors and winners for a chance for new fame. And obviously, Jesse Taylor did not do it good twice, because currently he got cut yet again. So, Jesse Taylor, I'm sorry, you may have won it, but you indeed failed. But what pisses me off about the show was, other than my boy Hector failing, Hector, what did you do, man? I love you, dude. What'd you do? But overall, the problem was the season reflected way too much between Cody and TJ's rival, and it got annoying to the point that even the fighters didn't want to be on the season because of those two bickering back and forth. It is close to being on the same season as season 16, but it hung on by a thread because of the conflict made it entertaining to watch. Now this is the next season of, again, champion will be crowned, and this to me was a season I think we all want to put back. And I don't really want to talk about it because they did my girl wrong. Roxanne Modafferi. They did my girl wrong. She got screwed. And also I didn't like the coach's selections. No offense. I do like Justin. And I'm a big fan of Eddie. But this show just sucked. Now we're going on to Undefeated. I don't think anyone really talks about this season. Now I think that's the problem. People never really... I'm going to put this low on my D list because, I didn't like the season. It bored me because at the end of it, do people still talk about the winner of the show? No. Do people care about the coaches? Not right now. One's retired being a broadcaster. The other one's still in the UFC trying to get a world heavyweight title shot against... God knows who the champion is. I don't even know who the champion at this point is. John Jones? I don't know. Moving on. And then this was the heavy hitters. This is when they brought heavyweights back. And women, I think. Between Team Whitaker and Team Galsum. Once again, I never watched this season. I didn't really honestly got into it. So, D. I think what saved my actual chance of when it came back was the fact that they brought it back and it made it more enjoyable to watch again. Now we're going back to the classics again. I'm actually excited because we're going back to the seasons I grew up with. The Ultimate Fighter Season 2. Team Franklin versus Team Hughes. Now, it's kind of random with the coaching, but we had one of the greatest Ultimate Fighter winners for, the light heavyweights, which was Rashad Sugar Evans, who became a future UFC legend, and Joe Stevenson, who became under the dirt and came back with Team Gabbert and Dillashaw season. But a lot of great memories on this show. I would have to put it in this tier. Personal reason. Season 3. This is what I call when rivals actually go against each other and made it entertaining to watch because it wasn't just about the coaches, it was the fighters out on the show. Team Tito versus Team Shamrock. Now people, when they saw this, were ready to see how this goes. Overall, Michael Bisping, a UFC Hall of Famer, former middleweight champion, most talked about, and I will agree to most people, it is definitely on an A list. Did Tito have a great coaching staff over Ken Shamrock? Absolutely. Did Matt Hamill get screwed out? Probably. But overall, it was a great season. I enjoyed it. The Comeback, Season 4. Now, this concept was kind of weird and in its way because it worked, but didn't work. Now, these were UFC fighters who were once in the UFC promotion who sucked, got a second chance to one day get a chance to go for the title, which was at the time GSP and Anderson Silva. Overall, Matt Serra was a little engine that could and eventually became a UFC welterweight champion. Travis Lutter, though, he overweight himself and lost. And then failed. He didn't get that far. I had to put it as a C. I think it could have been better. The Ultimate Fighter Season 5. Team Penn versus Team Pulver. I almost forgot who was the other coach. Now, the Ultimate Fighter, which is the well-known, controversial, loved, and hate fighter, Nate Diaz. And to me, this show had a lot of moments that I had to say it's definitely agreeable on the S tier. Drama, Gabe Rudiger not able to cut weight, house brawls, everything about it, I would have to say is an S tier. Season 6, this is one of my underrated favorites. And a lot of people didn't like Season 6. I did. I mean, Mac Danzig is not a well-known Ultimate Fighter winner, but, you know, he is a grump who had positivity in his life. But it did bring drama, which I liked, between the coaches. Do I like Matt Hughes' coaching on the show? Absolutely not. But it did bring another controversial fighter who is in jail. War Machine. Why'd you do it, dude? Why'd you do it? I would have to put it in my B list because, you know, I liked the season. It wasn't well known, but you know what? I liked it. Season 7. Where do we begin with Season 7? Pre-Rampage coaching versus Team Griffin. Overall, it brought a lot of fighters who I loved on the show. CB Dalloway, Tim Credier, Matt Riddle, people. The former WWE wrestler who is in MLW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Matt, I'm high off my feet, but I enjoy life. Riddles. But this also resulted in Amir Sandola, who is off and on. What I didn't like about this is, once again, we go back to Jesse Taylor. Jesse Taylor, who had dominated the season, was going to be in the finale. He blew it after a Las Vegas incident, and Dana scolded him to the point where his chance that he had in the finale went away. To me, I had to say an A. It also brought one of my other favorite fighters in the show, Matt Brown. The one of the most scary, dangerous fighter out there. Now, Season 8. We're getting close to the ending, and to me, oh God, I have to say C. Now, overall, the winners, Efren, who won it and then did bad and got cut, came back, got cut as far, and Ryan Bader, who is one of the most dominant fighters in Bellator and a current champ, I think. But overall, the show reflected on one person. Junie, don't give him any more liquor, Browning. One of the most controversial guys on the show. Overall, the coaching staff was alright. Nogueira, Frank Mir, you know, it's there. Finally, we're in the last one of Season 9. Probably one of my favorite seasons. Team UK versus Team USA. Now, overall, Ross Pearson, one of the best known fighters on that show that won it. And the other guy, I don't know who his name was, never made it far. But this brought a lot of controversial moments, some moments that people still talk about. Mostly Bisping getting called whiter than a Band-Aid by a white guy. Bisping, you shouldn't have squirted water into his face. You did wrong, buddy. But overall, it did bring the rivalry between Henderson and Bisping, which brought USD 100, and it brought the most ferocious knockout of all time by Dan Henderson. No wonder why he's a living legend. Would I change anything off this list? Absolutely not. But what is your opinion on what do you feel was your favorite season of The Ultimate Fighter? Comment below. If you guys agree and disagree with my list, let me know. But I have a special message because I don't know if this is actually going to get sent over But I'm going to ask one of my persons who I've talked to, who loves The Ultimate Fighter and UFC, who has her own podcast of The Sport Bimbo, Stella K. Now, I don't know if you watch my YouTube video. I don't know if you know anything about this, but I want to see how you do your tier list. So, I'm sending out a message to you, my friend. I know you enjoy The Ultimate Fighter. I want to know where you stand on this list. So, anyone that knows, please send her a message. I like to see how interested she is and what she believes. So, thank you for watching, guys. Check out the links where you can find me. This is Michael, signing out.